one of the most common things we hear from families. We hear it over and over and over. It doesn't matter if you have a 5, 6, 7-year-old or a 13, 14, 15-year-old. The most common thing we hear is, my child hates reading at home. Breaks my heart. Breaks my heart when I hear that. But it has honestly driven me into a place where I am obsessed with shifting that for your child. And through tons and tons of research about how do we grow grit in our kids, resilience, how do we motivate them, how do we get them to do things that maybe naturally they don't really want to do. I have come up with this little framework that I think is really helpful. It's really helpful to know what zone your child is in so that you know how to support them in moving forward. And I just want to tell you, this also comes from a place of, I'm doing this for my own child, so you are not alone. I originally started researching this because my own son, who is autistic and has ADHD, he was having a really hard time taking on any challenges. If anything felt hard, he would shut down almost immediately. And I knew that it was up to me to help him shift that. He was not going to naturally just start taking on challenges and feeling motivated to do things. I had to help him. This was part of my job as a parent, especially a parent of a neurospicy kiddo. They need our extra little superpowers as parents to help them move through it. And this is something that has been immensely helpful with my own son, with myself and my own thinking, and hopefully for you and for your child as well. I call this the motivation map. When you have a child who is low on motivation, when you're like, they just don't try, whether they are melting down, where they're crying or running or screaming, or maybe they're just saying, this is boring, or I'm too stupid, or why do I have to do this? Why does no one else have to do this but me? Whatever it is, when you say it's reading time, it's learning time, time for homework, and they resist you, this is going to be helpful. Because what I have found after, being in the education field for 13 years, I've been running this business for 3 years, worked with 3,000 families. I was a classroom teacher and a reading specialist before that. After all that experience, I found that there are two main reasons why a child will be motivated. And if they don't have both of these things, it's going to be a struggle. There are two main reasons, okay? Not 100, not a million, two. And this is talking about, I should clarify right now, sustained low motivation. Why did it do that? I don't even know how I did that. There we go. Sustained low motivation. So not just like, yes, we all have off days, right? We all have days where we're hungry or tired or sleepy. So there will be days where your kids are like, I don't want to. But if this is happening, I would say 60 to 70% of the time you say time to read or time for homework and they're resisting, it's a bigger issue than they're hungry or they're tired or they don't feel good, okay? This is if it's the norm, if you're going to your kid and saying reading time and you're expecting them to resist, then this is a sustained problem that needs to be dealt with differently than just getting them a snack, okay? Sometimes getting them the snack is the answer. Sometimes letting them take a 10-minute break is the answer. But you know what I'm talking about. If you have a kiddo who it's like, you know they're going to resist, this is for you, okay? Here are the two things you need. The first one is your child needs to know the purpose. They need to know the why. Us as humans, we do not like busy work, do we? It's almost like offensive. I remember being in a college course and I felt like they were just always giving us busy work. And I'm like, I am paying for this. I'm paying good money for this course. And you're just giving me things and I don't know why I'm doing this. They never connected it to the purpose of it. And so did I feel motivated to do the best job on this? Absolutely not. I was just going to write down whatever. Me and someone in the class, we were going to do it together, even though we weren't supposed to, because we didn't see the purpose. They never told us why we were doing these things. It felt weird. It felt out of context. And it was like really almost offensive to me. Like, why am I wasting my time and my money doing something that isn't connected to my ultimate goal? So for our kids who maybe don't see the purpose of homework, maybe they don't understand why working on letters is so important. Maybe they don't understand why hearing sounds and words is so important. So when you say, hey, let's practice breaking sounds into words, they're going to be like, that's dumb. No, that's so boring. No, because they don't see the purpose. It feels random. It feels like busy work. So take a second and think. Does your child know the purpose of what you're doing with them? Have you explicitly said it to them? Do you know how to explain it to them, what the purpose is of the activities that you're doing? One of the things we do inside of our programs is we help teach kids about how their brain works. I call it brain love. And brain love is massively important in this because we are giving them the purpose. We're teaching them about what are the different processors that we need to connect, how do neurons work, how do we create pathways, how do we rewire pathways that are there that maybe aren't serving us. This is a massively important way that a lot of people miss to increase the purpose, is teaching your kids about how their brains work, especially if you have a child who is neurospicy. You got a kid with ADHD, dyslexia, autism, you got to give them a purpose. You got to tell them why they might need more repetition than other kids because their brain is wired differently. It's going to take a little more time and effort to create those pathways, but they're going to get there if they don't give up. So purpose is the first big driver of motivation. The second one, do you know what it is? Belief. Belief in their own abilities. Do they believe they can be successful? When they think about learning to read, what is the story they're telling themselves? Are they telling themselves, I can do this. This is, oh yeah, easy peasy. I can do anything. Or are they saying, I'm too dumb. Everybody else can do this but me. This is too hard. Where are they with their belief? Now, when you have a child who has high purpose, high belief, this is what I call, the power player zone. This is where we want our kids to be. We want them to understand why they need to show up and believe they can do it. When they can do that, they are unstoppable. They are unstoppable. I don't care if they have ADHD, autism, dyslexia. I don't care. If they believe they can do it and they see a purpose, they're going to stick with it. They're going to stay motivated. They're going to get to that finish line of being an independent, confident learner. It might take them longer, depending on their brain type, but they're going to get there because they have the purpose and they have the belief. Now, if you have a child who has the belief, they're like, yeah, I can do it, but why should I? What's the purpose? What's the point in this? Kind of like me in college, honestly. When I was getting assignments that I saw no purpose, it wasn't connected to what the class was, my grade, what's the purpose? You are in what's called the drifter zone because you're kind of just drifting through it. They'll do the bare minimum to kind of like scratch by, keep mom and dad and teachers off my back. But this is where I know my husband had the saying, C's get degrees. I hate that saying. It's so bad. No, we want more than C's. But that is it. C's get degrees. Just kind of get by, skirt by so you can kind of just do okay and then just move on with life. We don't want our kids here because they're never really going to reach their full potential. And they're always going to fight you. They're always going to resist because if they're here, they're resisting you. Oh, this is boring. This is so easy. I already know this. Those are things you're going to hear if your kid's in the drifter zone. So we need to increase their purpose. We need to show them the why in a way that's going to tie them and root them in a goal. That's going to what's going to bring them up to that power player zone. What if you have a child who sees the purpose? They really want to learn how to read. They really want to be successful in school. They really want good grades. This is what I call, but they don't believe they can be successful. They've lost that faith in themselves. They haven't seen enough growth. They haven't felt the wins. So now they're really just kind of down on themselves. I call this the tug of war zone. Because inside your child is having this constant battle. They're constantly going, oh, I want to, but I can't. I really, really want to read this book, but I'm not good enough. So it's this emotional tug, and it's a really sad place to be when they don't believe they can. They want to, but they don't believe they can. We need to help stack wins for these kids. We need to show them every little step they're making in the right direction. We need to make sure we are teaching them in a way that works with their brains. We need to make sure we are following evidence-based instruction that's actually moving the needle for them. These kids need really good instruction so that they can feel those wins and see those wins and build that belief in themselves. Now this bottom one, that is, I'm going to do it in red because it kind of is. I call it the no-go zone. When your kid doesn't see a purpose and they don't believe in themselves. This is kind of a red alert to me. If that is your child, they need support today. Because these are the kiddos that are really at risk when their motivation is so low, they don't know why they should show up because they can't do it anyways. They're going to be getting in trouble at school. They're going to be maybe showing signs of some anxiety. To see little kids with anxiety breaks my heart, where they're just getting so anxious about going to school, getting on the bus, they're having tummy aches. They're going to the nurse during reading time because they just want to avoid it altogether. They are breaking down. When you try to read with them at home, they break down. And these kids, they need a lot of support. They need it. They need to find their wins. You have to make sure they're getting that evidence-based instruction, not just random things, not leveled readers, not flashcards. They need intensive instruction so that they can feel those wins. And they need to connect and root into that why. Why should you do this? Why should you try? They need to understand their brains. So for this one, we do something called self skills inside of our program. Self skills is where we are intentionally working on building your child's belief, their confidence, their self-talk, so that they can go up to that power player zone. So when you can mix teaching your kids about their brains, how they work, that increases the purpose, plus the self skills, where they're learning about how they can build their confidence, their worthiness, their self-talk, how to advocate for themselves. That is when we get our kids to what I call the power player zone. And then we also layer in, oh, it's gonna make it hard to read, that's okay. We also layer in, obviously, teaching them in a way that actually works with their brain. When you can do those three things, holy cow. When we can teach our kids the literacy skills, when we can have brain love, teaching our kids about our brain, and we can have our self skills, your child is going to crush it. Now I just put out, it's pretty new, pretty brand new. I'm so excited about this. My favorite thing I've ever made. It's called our secret language. Secret language, how to get your kids to want to learn at home. So it follows this exactly. It's following the motivation map and giving you the exact tools you need to get your kids into that power player zone. So you're getting the step-by-step, word-for-word things that you need to do to move the needle for them. If you want to find out how to grab the secret language, it's a mini course. So there's a printable guide and there's also some video trainings where I'm going to dive deep into how to get your kids there. Go ahead and check out the description below. The description below is going to have all the information about how you can grab that and move the needle for your child today, because you want your child in the power player zone as quickly as possible. If you can get them there as quickly as possible, man, you're setting them up for so much success. And hey, if this was helpful at all, make sure you subscribe, because I'm going to have tons of new content coming out helping you get your kids in that power player zone. What are the literacy skills they need? How do we do brain love? How do we do self skills? We're going to be getting your kids crushing it with their education, especially if you have a neurospicy kiddo, okay? Because that is my favorite. My kiddos that they might be falling through the cracks at school because schools are not built for your kids. The system's not there for them. Instead, I want to help you have the tools and the resources and the skills to help them crush it with their education and live that happy, fulfilled life that they so deserve and can absolutely have. So subscribe, check out the description if you want to check out our secret language, our little mini course we have, and let's get your kids crushing it. All right. I will see you in the next one, my friend.